Please comment where you are watching in the world, and kindly subscribe to us. Thursdays used to be my favorite day of the week. Not for any big reason, just a little one. Poppy and I always met for lunch. After dropping the kids off at school, I'd run a few errands, maybe do some grocery shopping, then meet her at the Nook, our spot downtown. She liked the rosemary fries. I liked that she never checked her phone when we talked. For a while, it felt like we were building something. Something slow, sturdy. A quiet second chance. But that was before last Thursday. That was before Emma called me, crying from the school nurse's office. She's 13 now. My daughter. Bright, a little shy. Has her mom's smile and my bad habit of overthinking everything. We lost her mom to cancer 4 years ago. It hollowed out our lives in ways I still can't describe. There were nights I didn't think we'd ever come back from it. But we did. Together. Emma's always been strong. But when I picked up the phone and heard her voice cracked with panic, I knew. This wasn't one of those forgot my homework calls. Through sniffles, she told me what happened. Her first period. It came on fast, unexpected. She was embarrassed. Scared. Her jeans were stained, and she didn't know what to do. "I just want to come home," she whispered. That was all I needed. I texted Poppy as I drove to the school. "Emergency with Emma. I have to cancel lunch. We'll explain later." I wasn't thinking about etiquette or clarity. My hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. I just needed to get to my kid. When I got to the nurse's office, Emma launched herself into my arms like she was 6 years old again. Her face was red from crying, her voice barely a whisper. "I feel gross." "You're not gross," I said, smoothing her hair back. "You're growing up. That's all." We stopped at the pharmacy. Picked up what we needed. Bought chocolate too because why not? Back home, I let her take a long shower while I put together a little kit for her. She didn't say much for the rest of the day, just stayed wrapped in a blanket on the couch, watching reruns with Fergus, our lopsided Labrador, snoring beside her. I sat with her. Quiet. Just present. Around 3 p.m., the doorbell rang. It was Poppy. I was surprised to see her. She hadn't responded to my text, but I figured she was just giving space. She'd never dropped by unannounced before. "Hey," I said. Seriously?" she snapped, brushing past me. "You just cancel on me with some vague emergency text, and then ghost me all day?" I blinked. "Poppy, I wasn't ghosting you. Emma needed me." "You couldn't have sent one more sentence?" she said, pacing the living room. "Like, hey, it's her period, she's freaked out? Something?" "She was in tears at school," I said. I wasn't exactly thinking about perfect phrasing. Poppy rolled her eyes. "It's just a period," she muttered. "The school could have handled it. You didn't have to blow me off." Those words. They landed like bricks. "It's just a period." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, I saw the space between us. The difference in how we loved. In what we understood. "I'm a single parent," I said softly. "When my kid calls me scared, I go. No explanations. No apologies." She folded her arms. "I just feel like you always put them before me." "They're my kids," I said. "Of course I do." Emma peeked in from the hallway. Her eyes were still puffy. I could feel her listening. I smiled at her, gently, and nodded toward the TV. She disappeared again. Poppy sighed. I don't want to be last all the time." "I never said you had to be last," I told her. "But you're not first. Not yet. Not like them." "Then maybe we shouldn't make plans anymore," she said. And then she left. Just like that. The silence after she slammed the door felt bigger than the house itself. I sat down next to Emma, who was pretending not to watch, and she leaned into me like she used to when she was little. "You okay, Dad?" she asked. "I'm fine," I said, kissing the top of her head. "Just some grown-up stuff." She nodded. We didn't talk about it again. That weekend, I tried texting Poppy. Told her I was sorry for being vague. Tried to explain that parenting isn't predictable. That some emergencies don't come with full context. She didn't respond. The following Thursday, I went to the Nook alone. Ordered rosemary fries. Tried to eat them. Couldn't finish. A few days later, she agreed to meet. Neutral ground. A park near my house. She wore sunglasses and didn't smile when I walked up. We sat on opposite ends of the bench like strangers. "I've been thinking a lot," she said. "About what I want. About what I can handle." I nodded. "Same. I don't think I can do this," she said. The sudden cancellations. The half-explained plans. Always coming second. Or third. I waited a moment. Then I said, "I respect that." Her sunglasses slipped a little as she looked at me. That's it. What else is there to say? She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded. I hope you find someone, I added, who gets you, who fits your life. And I hope, she said after a pause, you find someone who wants to be part of yours. That night, I tucked Emma into bed. She was quiet, but peaceful. Hugged me longer than usual. Before I left the room, she whispered, "Thanks for coming to get me." I smiled. Always. I'm not angry at Poppy. She wasn't cruel. She was just mismatched. I think we both saw something in each other we wanted to be true. But the reality is, not everyone is built for the kind of love that includes 2 kids, a tired dog, and a man still learning how to do everything alone. That's okay. Love isn't just about chemistry. It's about capacity. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them go when you realize they don't fit the shape of your world. As for me, Thursdays are still my favorite day. Not because of any grand romance, but because they remind me that showing up for someone, especially when it's messy, inconvenient, and unglamorous, is still the most honest kind of love there is, even if the only person who sees it is 13. So, Tinder date, first date went well. He's super nice, chill, cute, a little younger than me, which is usually not my vibe, but whatever. We decide that we would like to engage in sexual intercourse with each other. But I can't host, and he lives with his parents, so obviously he can't host either. He offers to drive us to his dad's home, which is farther away but empty. Great. All sounds good. The minute he picked me up, I was concerned about his driving. Like literally the first red light we pull up to, he starts rolling into the intersection. He's stopping short at stop signs, not signaling, is just clearly not the best driver. But what boy in their early/mid-20s is, right? I'm a little on edge, but we make it to the house safe. We get inside and says, "Let's go upstairs." Now I know this is not his home, so I'm expecting a guest room, maybe the master bedroom, even on the couch. Wrong. It turns out, this is his childhood home. So upstairs is his childhood bedroom. We're talking twin beds, Mickey Mouse sheets, stickers on the wall. There's a huge poster of Homer Simpson in his underwear, and a holographic picture of Mary Magdalene surrounded by angels. For some odd reason, I am not turned on. We've been in the room barely 5 minutes before he's sitting next to me, kissing me and feeling me up. Okay, cool, let's jump right in. I'll skip the nitty-gritty, but let me just say, pleasing a woman? Not really in his repertoire. We fool around for a few minutes, and then he asks me if I want to be on top or bottom. This could have been a sexy question, but he asked it with the same tone as your hairdresser asking, "So how short do you want me to cut it?" I was a little taken aback, was like, "On top, I guess." And off we went. For about 6 minutes. I didn't even know he had finished. So I'm like, oh, okay. We chill for a few minutes, keep fooling around, I fake an orgasm, who's surprised. He asks if I want round 2. I do not, but I didn't drive an hour here for 6 minutes. So we go for round 2. We're in and out in about 4 to 5 minutes, because he can't stay hard with the condom after already orgasming once. Okay, cool. So we hang out in bed for a while. He offers me some weed, I accept, and ask him if he's okay to drive me home high. He says, yeah, I do it all the time. I am skeptical, but he seems confident. We get stoned, start shooting the shit, making small talk. What anime are you watching? Did you see this show, etc.? I start spacing out for a few minutes when he asks me, "Have you ever had problems with depression?" I am very taken aback. But I've got nothing to hide, so I say yes, I have and still do. Me too, he says, and tells me that it's a hard thing to deal with. I agree. Great, time for a topic change. Have you ever had any suicidal thoughts? Pause. What? This is a guy I barely know asking me, directly after sex, whether I've had suicidal thoughts. I'm honestly freaked out, but I do have experience with suicide, as a very close family member attempted a few years ago. It was an incredibly hard year for my family, with multiple absolutely horrible things happening in a short period of time. I won't go into it, but we're all much happier and healthier now, and am comfortable talking about it. So I decide to tell him the story, in the hopes of shutting him down a little bit. Because if the question is, do you have experience with suicide, and I say yes, here's this horrible story, the correct response is, oh, that's absolutely horrible, and then you change the subject. Right? Wrong. He wants to know more. He wants details. He starts telling me about his own history with depression, and how he almost committed suicide a few years ago. I am shocked, stoned, and butt-ass naked. What the absolute fuck is going on? I delicately turned the conversation to something else, and bar a few more WTF did you just say moments, it's pretty chill. We start the drive home. Do you want the story to end here? Me too. Turns out, he is not good at driving while high. He is slow following the GPS, and when he misses a turn, instead of letting it reroute, tries to make the turn across 2 lanes of traffic. He ran at least 3 red lights, one while making a left-hand turn in the middle of a very busy intersection. When we're a few blocks away from my house, we're stopped at a red light. A lot of the major streets here are one-way, some with multiple lanes of traffic. Aside from having a GPS, this is just A, common knowledge, and B, incredibly obvious, because how can you miss that all the cars are going one way? You know where this is going. So we're chatting, the light turns green, he makes a right-hand turn on the wrong street, into 4 lanes of oncoming, one-way traffic. I am currently shitting my pants. He tries to back up, doesn't work. He tries to make a U-turn in the middle of the street. Obviously, that's incredibly dangerous. I point out a small side street where he can pull in and turn around. He does, we avoid collision, and while I was certainly panicked the rest of the drive, he drops me off without further incidents and makes his own way home. The kicker? He thought it went great and wants to be regular FWB. FML. It was a Friday night, and I was feeling pretty optimistic about this date. His name was Greg, and he seemed like a solid guy. He was really tall, had a great sense of humor, and his profile didn't have any shirtless gym selfies or pictures of him holding a fish. We'd been texting for about a week, and he suggested we meet up for dinner at this cute little Italian restaurant I'd been wanting to try. Oh, how wrong I was. First red flag? Greg was already sitting at the table when I walked in. Now I know what you're thinking. Naomi, isn't that a good thing? Punctuality is attractive. And yes, normally it is. But Greg wasn't just sitting there. He was mid-bite, like full-on forking spaghetti into his mouth before I even got there. I froze for a second, wondering if I was late. I wasn't. 7 p.m. sharp, thank you very much. Or if maybe he'd just been really hungry. Either way, I walked over, smiled, and said, "Hey, Greg." He looked up, his mouth full of pasta, and said, "Oh, hey, you're here," with marinara sauce on his chin. Okay, fine. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he needed a little pre-dinner snack to calm his nerves. I decided to let it slide. Big mistake. I sat down, and before I could even open my menu, Greg was flagging down the waiter. "Hey, buddy, can we get some more breadsticks over here? Oh, and another side of the calamari." "Thanks." The waiter nodded, and I just kind of stared at him. Breadsticks? Calamari? Already? I hadn't even picked up my water glass yet. Hungry? I asked, half joking. "Oh yeah," he said casually, wiping his face with a napkin. "I skipped lunch today, so I'm starving." "All right, fair enough. I get it. We all get hangry sometimes." But guys, this was just the beginning. When the waiter came back with the breadsticks and calamari, Greg dug in like he was a contestant on a survival reality show. I'm not exaggerating when I say he ate an entire breadstick in 2 bites. 2 bites. I hadn't even reached for one yet, and he was already halfway through the basket. "Do you want some?" he asked, gesturing vaguely at the calamari, which was, by the way, rapidly disappearing. Sure," I said, grabbing a piece before it went extinct. I thought maybe he'd slow down once we ordered our main courses. Again, I was wrong. The waiter came back to take our orders, and I went with my go-to, chicken parm. Simple, classic, can't go wrong. Greg, on the other hand, decided to go big. "I'll have the lasagna," he said, "and the fettuccine alfredo. Oh, and can I add a side of meatballs? And maybe a Caesar salad, too." I blinked. Did he just order 4 meals? The waiter hesitated, probably wondering the same thing, but Greg didn't miss a beat. "Oh, and can we get another basket of breadsticks while we wait?" "Thanks, man." At this point, I was starting to wonder if I'd accidentally agreed to have dinner with a competitive eater. While we waited for the food to arrive, Greg continued his assault on the breadsticks. I managed to snag one just in time, but I swear, it felt like I was fighting for survival. Meanwhile, he was chatting away like nothing was out of the ordinary. He told me about his job, something in sales, I think. It was hard to focus while he was double-dipping calamari in marinara sauce, his workout routine, clearly ineffective given the calorie intake, and his dog Max, who, by the way, eats like a little garbage disposal. The irony was not lost on me. When the main courses arrived, I thought, okay, surely he'll slow down now. Spoiler, he did not slow down. In fact, I think he sped up. Watching Greg eat was like watching a tornado tear through a small town. He attacked the lasagna first, barely pausing to chew before moving on to the fettuccine. The Caesar salad sat untouched on the side, like it had been invited to the table as a cruel joke. Meanwhile, I was trying to enjoy my chicken parm, but it was hard to focus with Greg shoveling food into his mouth like he was on a timer. At one point, he actually said, "Oh man, this Alfredo is so good. You gotta try it," and tried to fork feed me a bite. I panicked and leaned back like he was holding out a live snake. "I'm good, thanks." By the time he finished his lasagna, fettuccine, and side of meatballs, I was still halfway through my meal. I figured he'd slow down now, maybe sip some water, and let the food settle. But no. Greg leaned back in his chair, rubbed his stomach, and said, "Man, that was great. You think they have dessert here?" I laughed, thinking he was joking. He was not joking. The waiter came by, and Greg immediately asked for the dessert menu. Not wanting to be rude, I decided to order something small, a scoop of gelato maybe. But Greg went all in on the tiramisu. Not just a slice. The whole tray. I wish I could say the tiramisu was the end of it, but no. Greg demolished that thing like it owed him money. The table next to us actually stopped their conversation to watch him. I could see the waiter in the corner, whispering to another staff member and pointing at our table. I wanted to crawl under the booth and disappear. When he finally finished, Greg leaned back again, let out a satisfied sigh, and said, "Man, that was amazing. I could eat here every day." "Of course you could, Greg." The bill came, and to his credit, Greg did offer to pay for everything. I felt bad letting him foot the bill for what was essentially an all-you-can-eat buffet, but he insisted. "I eat a lot," he said with a shrug, as if that wasn't painfully obvious. As we walked out of the restaurant, I was half expecting him to suggest hitting up a burger joint for round 2. Instead, he patted his stomach and said, "That was fun. We should do it again sometime." I smiled weakly, still trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Yeah, maybe. Spoiler, there was no second date. So there you have it. My date with the human vacuum cleaner. Moral of the story? If a guy starts eating before you even arrive, run. Don't walk. Run. And maybe keep an emergency breadstick in your purse, just in case. You never know when you'll need it. I was in my first real relationship at 26. I was overweight and lacked confidence my entire life, but I had lost weight and found a girl who liked me. We had been dating for almost 6 months. She was hot, but she had issues. For times she had blacked out while drinking and become a total bitch. She was also on antidepressants, which she was bad at taking. She wasn't super affectionate when sober, and she was too reliant on her parents. Oh, and she may have occasionally puked up dinner. This is the story of her 5th blackout. I had already told her if it happened again, we were done, but this one took the cake. It was restaurant week, so we went to dinner at a nice Asian restaurant. It was normal for me to spend way too much money with this girl, but that was another issue. We have a decent dinner and a few drinks. We decide to meet my friends at a bar that is close. Her friend has a birthday party the next afternoon at a bar where there is a drinking contest, so we decide to take the night easy. At the bar my friends are at, there is a special on a 10% beer. The first thing my GF does is order one. I remind her that we have a long day tomorrow, and that it's strong. 15 minutes later she orders another. She is clearly getting drunk. My friends mention the bar they are spending the night at, and she already wants to go. So much for an easy night. Another beer for her. I am getting angry. After telling her to slow down, I go outside to cool off. It's about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. My friends can tell I am getting angry. She orders another beer. She is wasted. My friends decide to help me out and decide they are going to the other bar and we should head home. She demands going with them. She stands up and falls down. I help her with her coat as they leave. While waiting for a cab outside, I tell her that if we don't go home, we are over. She says she doesn't care. We get in our cab. I tell the cabbie her address. She screams that she wants to go to the bar, and the cabbie listens to her. When we arrive at the bar, she stumbles across the street. I motion to the bouncers to not let her in. She also almost bites it while walking. For the first 15 minutes, I try with the bouncers to tell her to go home. Eventually, I just go to the smoking area and talk to random people. I try to call her brother to get him to talk sense into her, but he doesn't answer. Now 45 minutes into this, and still outside, and after multiple attempts by her to run past the bouncers, they literally pick her up and throw her in a cab. I get in and tell him her address. Now you may ask why I have not left yet. Well, if she got in somehow, it was my friend's issue to deal with her, and I didn't want that to happen. Also, I was worried for her safety. At this point, I am 80% breaking up with her. About a mile and a half down the road, she starts screaming that she wants to go back to the bar. I try to calm her down, but the cabbie won't deal with it. We get kicked out. She proceeds to walk in the freezing weather the mile and a half back to the bar. She almost gets hit by a few cars along the way. When we get to the bar, the bouncers are pissed. I ask if they are calling the cops, to which they shake their heads yes. I ask for 5 minutes and call her mother at 1 a.m. Her mother answers and I explain. She was not shocked, which was odd. Then her mother talks to her and she listens. We get in a taxi and head to her place. I am 90% breaking up with her. On the taxi ride back, she gets pissed I called her mother. At this point, it's worth mentioning I was in a brace due to surgery on my arm. She leans over and starts punching me in the face, a total of 6 times. I am shocked, but finally throw her into the other side of the taxi. She stops. I am 100% breaking up with her. I tell her that we are over for good and there is no coming back. She cries for the next 10 minutes to get to her house. The taxi driver says he will wait for me. I grab her keys and after 5 minutes, stupid lock was hard, I get her front door open. I push her in and throw her keys at her and walk away. The whole time she is talking about having sex with me. The cabbie has a good talk on the way home with me. When I get home, I defriend her and all her friends on Facebook. I turn off my phone and go to bed. She calls me the next morning, after I woke up and turned my phone on, like nothing happened, wanting to go to the birthday party. I remind her we are over. She cries, not remembering as usual. She asks if we can at least break up while she is sober, and I say we can talk in a week. One day before we are supposed to meet, she had plans with friends for happy hour. She calls me after asking if we could meet that day instead. When she shows up, she is drunk. I can smell the vodka. After crying and demanding I hold her, she strips naked and tries to rape me. She was small, it wasn't happening, but if she was a guy, she would be in jail. The worst part is I never really said my piece. I never went off and yelled at her. This would bother me until I finally had a random hookup months later. I never got over her, no matter how horrible she was, because I didn't get closure myself. Anyways, tonight I am planning on asking the girl I am dating to be my GF, so things do turn around. She is nothing like the previous girl. Sometimes life sucks, but it does get better. The first time I saw the post, I didn't think it was about me. It was vague. A block of text under a filtered sunset photo. The kind you scroll past at night without reading, until one sentence grabs your eye and won't let go. Some wounds don't heal because the person who caused them never acknowledged the damage. I froze. The rest of the caption was full of generalizations about manipulative classmates and people who pretend to be kind while cutting you apart. It didn't name me, but it didn't need to. Anyone who knew us would know. It was Amy. We went to high school together, small town, small class. You either became friends by default or enemies by accident. With Amy, it was both. Our history was complicated. We weren't close, but our lives overlapped. We shared a math class, worked together on a fundraiser, dated guys who circled the same toxic orbit. When we were 15, an older guy took interest in both of us, first her, then me. He was charming in public, cruel in private. She reported him. Her parents got the police involved. Mine did too. He went to jail. But something between Amy and me fractured after that. I tried being friendly. She kept her distance, then stopped acknowledging me altogether. I figured that was her way of protecting herself, and I respected it. We moved on. At least, I thought we did. Years passed. I moved out of that town, got married, then divorced. Started over in a new city. When I met Ryan on a dating app, he told me he was poly. I wasn't sure it was for me, but we were transparent. Casual. A few dates, nothing serious. One night, over drinks, he mentioned his other girlfriend, Amy. It stopped me cold. I hadn't heard her name in a decade. I asked if she knew about me. She doesn't know the details, he said, but she knows there's someone else. I ended it right after that. Something didn't sit right. The next morning, Amy's name was in my notifications. Blocked account. But I saw the comments on Ryan's post. I saw the subtext in her Instagram stories. I saw the DM she sent before blocking me. You always find a way back in, don't you? Then came the public posts. No names. Just implications. Screenshots with the usernames cropped out. Photos from high school yearbooks, blurred faces and sarcastic captions like, "She seemed so sweet." People started messaging me. Mutuals. Old classmates. Even someone from college who barely knew me. Is everything okay? What is she talking about? Do you want to talk about it? I didn't know what to say. Because I didn't know what she was saying. I started doubting myself. Had I said something wrong back then? Been too friendly with her ex? Made her feel invisible? Memory plays tricks when you want it to, and I wanted so badly not to be the villain. But the more I tried to piece it together, the more it unraveled. I remembered her crying once in the bathroom stall while I stood outside, unsure what to say. I remembered her glaring at me in the hallway. I remembered silence. And silence. And silence. I spoke to friends we used to share. Some stayed neutral. Others admitted Amy had been saying things for years, small, bitter comments. Snide references. That I had betrayed her somehow. That I'd gotten away with everything. But no one could tell me what everything meant. One night, I tried messaging her. Not to argue. Just to talk. Amy, I'm not sure what I did to hurt you. But I never meant to. If you want to talk, even privately, I'm here. The message didn't go through. She'd blocked me again. Now it's been 3 months. She still posts. Sometimes twice a week. Always the same tone, poetic, bitter, righteous. Sometimes I see mutuals commenting with hearts or quiet affirmations. Sometimes they unfollow me a few days later. It's a strange kind of grief, mourning a version of yourself someone else keeps rewriting. There's no defense. No courtroom. Just perception and whispers. People say truth is a matter of perspective. But what happens when someone else's truth makes you question your own? My therapist says I need to let go of the need to be understood. That Amy's story belongs to her. That I can't make someone forgive a version of me they've already decided to hate. But it's hard, because I've spent most of my life trying to be kind. And now someone is telling the world I was cruel. I don't know what Amy wants from me. Maybe nothing. Maybe just space to rage without consequence. Maybe she's reliving pain and trying to name it, even if the names are wrong. Some nights, I lie awake and replay everything. Not out of guilt. Out of confusion. Like if I can just remember one more detail, I'll unlock the moment this all broke. But there's no clean answer. Just echoes. Just noise. A few weeks ago, I bumped into someone at a bookstore, another old classmate. She looked at me like I was radioactive. We made small talk. I asked about her kids. She asked about my work. And then, as she turned to go, she said, "I hope you've changed." I didn't ask what she meant. I just nodded, and went home feeling hollow. I'm not the person Amy writes about, but I'm not sure that matters anymore. Because in her story, I'm already written. And in mine, I'm still trying to remember what the last chapter was even about. This happened a few months ago. I think it was worth making a Reddit account to share this story with everyone. So, I'm in third year university and I have a job, so it's kind of hard for me to find the time to go on dates. However, recently I downloaded Bumble just to see what kind of activity I would get. After a few weeks on the app, I matched with a girl named Amy, and she started messaging me. Unlike other dating apps, on Bumble, the girl has to make the first move. She was a good-looking girl, we had relatively the same interests, and she even went to the same school as me. We talked for a few weeks, and eventually set up a date. We decided she would come over to my place for dinner. My plan was to impress her with my culinary skills. Yes, I took a few culinary classes. The day arrived, and I heard a knock at my door. I open it, and I breathe a sigh of relief. Amy looked like she did in her pictures. I've always heard stories about how many people don't usually look like they do in their pictures. Amy gives me a hug, and she comes in. She arrived a little bit early, so I still had all my ingredients out with food still frying on the pan. She didn't seem to mind though, as she stood by me as I cooked, and we chatted. At this point, I'm kind of stunned. Amy is beautiful, we have a ton of things in common. We go to the same school, she's smart, funny, a great conversationalist, and she looked exactly like she did in her pictures. She was almost too good to be true. I finally finished preparing the food, and Amy and I sit down and begin to eat and chat. After the meal, we start getting a little flirty with each other. One thing leads to another, and we end up taking things to the bedroom. We begin to kiss, and everything is going normally, until I feel Amy's nails scrape down my back like a wild tiger. I scream and shoot up. "What's wrong?" Amy asked me. "What the hell was that for?" I asked. She apologized and told me she gets carried away sometimes. I took a handheld mirror and looked at my back in the bigger mirror, and it looked like a tiger attacked me. Blood was dripping down my back. I was shocked at this point, but I didn't want this to ruin the night, because we had been having such a good time up until this point, and I still wanted to see where our relationship would go. I went into the bathroom to clean out my cuts in the shower. When I came out of the shower, Amy was sitting on my bed smiling at me and apologized again. I looked at how beautiful she was, and I honestly couldn't stay mad at her. We ended up getting back into the groove of things, and we get to the part where it was time for protection. I pulled some condoms out of the dresser. I don't know about you other guys, but before I use a condom, I always inspect it to make sure it's in good condition. The first condom I pulled out had a small hole in the tip. I thought that was weird, but breathed a sigh of relief that I actually checked it before I put it on. I threw that one away and grabbed another one. As I was doing this, Amy was distracting me, almost like she didn't want me checking them. She kept climbing on top of me and trying to get me to hurry up. As I inspected the next condom, I found it also had a small hole in the exact same place the previous one had. At this point, I was very suspicious. I tell Amy to stop, and I dump out all of my condoms and start checking each one, and sure enough, they all had a hole in relatively the same spot. I know for a fact they were all in good condition when I got them, so I knew they were tampered with, and I knew for a fact it was Amy since I live alone and hadn't had anyone in my bedroom before her. At first, when I confront her about it, she denies everything, but I tell her I'm not stupid and to just tell me the truth. Eventually, as I continue to question her, she tells me, "Okay, fine, I did it, but it's only because every guy I'm with just wants to *CK me, then not call me again. You're a really great guy, and I wanted you to stay with me even after tonight." This made me furious. I said, "Are you *King kidding me, Amy? Do you know how this could have *ked up my life? How can you automatically assume I wouldn't call you? I was liking you up until this point." At this point, I had a girl at my place who gave me a tiger wound and also tried to make me a father without my consent, so I told her to leave. She got dressed and began to walk to the front door. I followed her to make sure she would leave. She did leave, but not before knocking over a few chairs in my kitchen on the way out. After that day, I was much more careful with the girls I met up with on Bumble. I guess the moral of this story is to never take someone at face value. You can never truly know a person based on a brief encounter. Also, men, take care of your condoms. It started as a weird moment at a party. Nothing big. Just one of those nights where the music's a little too loud, the drink's a little too strong, and someone ends up laughing a little too hard at something that wasn't that funny. Her name was Elise, a friend of a friend, or more accurately, part of my friend's girlfriend's circle. We crossed paths at Ryan's birthday, at a rented house with too many balloons and not enough exits. She was introduced with a hug that lingered just a second too long. Red wine in one hand, charm in the other. Funny, sure. Sharp even. But I felt it almost immediately, that subtle hum of discomfort in my chest. I smiled, was polite, steered the conversation toward the group. But she kept gravitating toward me, laughing too loudly at my dumb jokes, leaning in like we had history. We didn't. At the end of the night, she asked for my number. I declined, politely, saying I wasn't in that place right now. She smiled like she understood, then showed up to every group hangout for the next 2 months. At first, I figured I was imagining it. Maybe she was just outgoing. Maybe it was all in my head. But the signs started stacking up. She'd find me alone at dinner parties, corner me with compliments and oddly personal questions. She'd drop subtle references to things I'd said weeks earlier, like she was tracking me bit by bit. Eventually, I sat her down, at a picnic of all places, while everyone else was tossing frisbees and laughing about something I couldn't even hear. "I just want to be clear," I told her. "I'm not interested in anything romantic." She tilted her head. "Oh, I thought we had a connection." "I'm sorry," I said. "But no, not like that." She nodded, laughed, said, "Fair enough." I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. She kept trying. More messages. More invitations. Random compliments out of nowhere. I stopped responding to her texts, started showing up late to group stuff, hoping to minimize overlap. But our circles had become too intertwined. Ryan's girlfriend, Jenna, loved Elise. Said she was just quirky. Said she was a little intense, but harmless. I wanted to believe that. Then came the double date. Ryan had been pestering me for a week about it. "Come on, man, she's perfect for you." "I've told you. I'm not interested." "This isn't about Elise," he insisted. "Different person. Just come. Keep me from third-wheeling with Jenna and her friend." I should have known. I should have trusted the instinct that buzzed in my spine the minute he mentioned it. But I didn't want to be rude. So I said yes. Friday night. Dinner at Ryan's apartment. I walked in, saw the candles, the table set for 4. And Elise. Smiling like this was the moment she'd been waiting for. I froze. Jenna beamed. Surprise. My stomach dropped. Seriously? Ryan laughed awkwardly. Thought you might change your mind. I didn't say a word. Just turned around, walked out the door, and didn't stop until I was back in my car, shaking. The fallout was immediate. My phone lit up with messages. Why would you humiliate her like that? You're being a jerk. She really likes you. Can't you give her a chance? It was just dinner. You didn't have to make a scene. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? That I'd already said no? That I'd tried to be kind and direct and respectful, and somehow still ended up the villain? That saying, I'm not interested, didn't seem to count anymore unless I said it with a megaphone? For the next few weeks, I stopped going to group events, muted the group chat, declined invitations, made up excuses. Every time I got a notification, my heart sped up. I wasn't avoiding Elise. I was avoiding the pressure, the quiet implication that my no had an expiration date. Eventually, I reached out to Ryan, asked him calmly what he was thinking. Look, he said, I just figured maybe you were being too hard on her. You two could have had something. You didn't even give it a chance. I didn't want a chance, I said. That's the point. She's hurt. I said no. Multiple times. He didn't reply. Just stared at the screen. And for the first time, I realized he didn't see what I saw. To him, I was being cold, rude, unreasonable. To me, I was trying not to burn down bridges while still holding my boundaries. Turns out, that wasn't possible. Weeks passed. I started running into mutual friends less and less. Some stopped replying altogether. Others made vague comments about how I ghosted the group. No one asked how I was doing. No one asked if I felt cornered. No one cared that I had said no, and no, and no again. I've stopped explaining myself. Stopped apologizing for being uncomfortable. Sometimes, kindness looks like walking away before resentment takes root. Sometimes, standing your ground means standing alone. I don't know what Elise tells people now. Maybe that I led her on. That I was mean. That I never gave her a real shot. But I do know this. Consent isn't just about sex. It's about space. And when someone keeps trying to close the gap after you've drawn the line, that's not love. That's pressure dressed in patience. These days, my circle's smaller, quieter, gentler. The kind of people who don't think no needs to be justified. The kind who trust you when you say something doesn't feel right, and don't try to fix you when you say no. And as for Elise, I hope she finds someone who does want her. But I hope she also learns that wanting someone back isn't a moral obligation. That persistence doesn't equal permission. That no, even when soft, even when polite, is still a complete sentence. I was in my first real relationship at 26. I was overweight and lacked confidence my entire life, but I had lost weight and found a girl who liked me. We had been dating for almost 6 months. She was hot, but she had issues. For times she had blacked out while drinking and become a total bitch. She was also on antidepressants, which she was bad at taking. She wasn't super affectionate when sober, and she was too reliant on her parents. Oh, and she may have occasionally puked up dinner. This is the story of her 5th blackout. I had already told her if it happened again, we were done, but this one took the cake. It was restaurant week, so we went to dinner at a nice Asian restaurant. It was normal for me to spend way too much money with this girl, but that was another issue. We have a decent dinner and a few drinks. We decide to meet my friends at a bar that is close. Her friend has a birthday party the next afternoon at a bar where there is a drinking contest, so we decide to take the night easy. At the bar my friends are at, there is a special on a 10% beer. The first thing my GF does is order one. I remind her that we have a long day tomorrow, and that it's strong. 15 minutes later she orders another. She is clearly getting drunk. My friends mention the bar they are spending the night at, and she already wants to go. So much for an easy night. Another beer for her. I am getting angry. After telling her to slow down, I go outside to cool off. It's about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. My friends can tell I am getting angry. She orders another beer. She is wasted. My friends decide to help me out and decide they are going to the other bar and we should head home. She demands going with them. She stands up and falls down. I help her with her coat as they leave. While waiting for a cab outside, I tell her that if we don't go home, we are over. She says she doesn't care. We get in our cab. I tell the cabbie her address. She screams that she wants to go to the bar, and the cabbie listens to her. When we arrive at the bar, she stumbles across the street. I motion to the bouncers to not let her in. She also almost bites it while walking. For the first 15 minutes, I try with the bouncers to tell her to go home. Eventually, I just go to the smoking area and talk to random people. I try to call her brother to get him to talk sense into her, but he doesn't answer. Now 45 minutes into this, and still outside, and after multiple attempts by her to run past the bouncers, they literally pick her up and throw her in a cab. I get in and tell him her address. Now you may ask why I have not left yet. Well, if she got in somehow, it was my friend's issue to deal with her, and I didn't want that to happen. Also, I was worried for her safety. At this point, I am 80% breaking up with her. About a mile and a half down the road, she starts screaming that she wants to go back to the bar. I try to calm her down, but the cabbie won't deal with it. We get kicked out. She proceeds to walk in the freezing weather the mile and a half back to the bar. She almost gets hit by a few cars along the way. When we get to the bar, the bouncers are pissed. I ask if they are calling the cops, to which they shake their heads yes. I ask for 5 minutes and call her mother at 1 a.m. Her mother answers and I explain. She was not shocked, which was odd. Then her mother talks to her and she listens. We get in a taxi and head to her place. I am 90% breaking up with her. On the taxi ride back, she gets pissed I called her mother. At this point, it's worth mentioning I was in a brace due to surgery on my arm. She leans over and starts punching me in the face, a total of 6 times. I am shocked, but finally throw her into the other side of the taxi. She stops. I am 100% breaking up with her. I tell her that we are over for good and there is no coming back. She cries for the next 10 minutes to get to her house. The taxi driver says he will wait for me. I grab her keys and after 5 minutes, stupid lock was hard, I get her front door open. I push her in and throw her keys at her and walk away. The whole time she is talking about having sex with me. The cabbie has a good talk on the way home with me. When I get home, I defriend her and all her friends on Facebook. I turn off my phone and go to bed. She calls me the next morning, after I woke up and turned my phone on, like nothing happened, wanting to go to the birthday party. I remind her we are over. She cries, not remembering as usual. She asks if we can at least break up while she is sober, and I say we can talk in a week. One day before we are supposed to meet, she had plans with friends for happy hour. She calls me after asking if we could meet that day instead. When she shows up, she is drunk. I can smell the vodka. After crying and demanding I hold her, she strips naked and tries to rape me. She was small, it wasn't happening, but if she was a guy, she would be in jail. The worst part is I never really said my piece. I never went off and yelled at her. This would bother me until I finally had a random hookup months later. I never got over her, no matter how horrible she was, because I didn't get closure myself. Anyways, tonight I am planning on asking the girl I am dating to be my GF, so things do turn around. She is nothing like the previous girl. Sometimes life sucks, but it does get better. I met Eli outside a record shop, arguing with the owner about whether Rumors was overrated. He was tall, tousled, wearing a threadbare coat and a backpack with patches from countries I'd only ever seen on maps. He smiled like he knew he was charming, but didn't use it like a weapon. We ended up splitting a pastry and talking for 2 hours on a bench down the street. That was 3 months ago. Since then, we'd been inseparable. Eli's apartment was on the 3rd floor of an older brick building with ivy climbing the side. His place was minimal, clean, quiet, with warm lighting and a bookshelf organized by vibe, not alphabet. I loved being there. It felt like a tucked-away corner of the world where nothing could hurt me. Except one thing, room 5B. It wasn't his address, his unit was 5C. But across the hall, the door to 5B was always locked. Curtains drawn. No packages, no foot traffic. Eli said it had been vacant for years. But there were signs. Lights under the door. Sounds. Once, I could have sworn I heard a kettle whistle. I asked Eli again one night, casually, "You sure no one lives there?" He didn't even look up from the sink. Place is condemned, actually. Water damage or something. It wasn't the answer that bothered me. It was how quickly he had it ready. The next time I stayed over, I brought a bottle of wine. We danced in the kitchen. Ended up wrapped in each other on the couch. Around 2 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. On the way back, I heard a sound from across the hall. A voice. Soft. Muffled. Like someone singing through a closed door. I pressed my ear to it, just for a second. The singing stopped. I froze. Then the floor creaked behind me. I turned. Eli was standing there, silent, watching. I thought you said it was empty, I said. He smiled a little too tightly. It is. The next morning, I found a second toothbrush in his bathroom drawer. It wasn't mine. I didn't ask. I just started noticing more things. A woman's coat in the closet, a second cup in the drying rack, a makeup remover cloth under the bed. Each time I spotted something, Eli had a perfectly crafted explanation. My sister crashed here last weekend. That's from my ex, must have missed it when she moved out. They're old. I should have thrown them out. Sorry. His tone never changed. Calm, reassuring, almost practiced. The breaking point came during a rainstorm. We were supposed to cook together. I arrived early, let myself in with the key he'd given me the week before. I heard him in the hallway, talking. I paused at the edge of the kitchen, just out of sight. His voice was low, tender. You have to stay quiet when she's here. I know. Just trust me. I stepped around the corner. Eli turned like nothing was wrong. Hey, you're early. Who are you talking to? He blinked. Bluetooth. Work call. That night, when he was in the shower, I checked the hall. Room 5B's door was unlocked. I didn't hesitate. Inside, the apartment was lived in. Lived in well. Books. Blankets. A faint lavender scent. Dishes in the sink. Hairbrush on the table. Photos on the wall. Her. The same woman from the coat, the toothbrush, the second mug. In one photo, she was standing next to Eli, smiling. I turned around, and he was standing there. Wet hair. No towel. Just him. Her name is Sarah, he said calmly. Who is she? My ex. Then why is she here? He looked at the ground. Because I couldn't let her go. I stared. You're still together? No. Not like that. He took a step forward. She's not allowed to leave. Not yet. My chest caved in. What do you mean she's not allowed to? She's scared, he said quickly. She was in danger. Her ex was violent. She had no one. I gave her this place. She's safe here. I didn't know whether to run or call someone or scream. Safe, I whispered. You locked her away. I'm protecting her. Does she want to be protected? He didn't answer. I left. Didn't wait for him to explain. Didn't stop shaking until I was home with every door locked behind me. I filed a report. Told the police everything. Gave them the address, the details. I don't know what happened next. They never contacted me again. Eli disappeared. Deleted social media. Changed his number. The last thing I ever got was a letter, slipped under my door 2 weeks later. No return address. Just a single sentence written in neat, deliberate handwriting. You saw a cage. She saw a sanctuary. I think about that line a lot. Who is he protecting? Her? Or himself? Some nights, I dream of room 5B. I hear the singing again. And I wonder, when does protection become possession? And when someone builds you a quiet world to hide in, is it love? Or is it a trap? The ticket cost $1,475. It was impulsive, yeah. But I knew what I was doing. Wendy had wanted to see Taylor Swift live for years. She entered every pre-sale, every raffle, watched every live stream in tears. But tickets were insane, always sold out or second-hand scams. She'd given up hope. So I bought one. Not because I wanted anything in return. Not to prove something. Just because she's my best friend. And I love her. We've been friends since high school. Survived breakups, college applications, terrible road trips, and even worse roommates. She's the person I call when I get good news. Or bad news. Or no news at all. Wendy's not just a friend. She's family. When I met Tanya, I told her about Wendy right away. Didn't hide it, didn't downplay it. Wendy's my person, I said. But strictly platonic. Tanya laughed. All good. I'm not the jealous type. I believed her. Things with Tanya were great at first. She was spontaneous and magnetic. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make it feel like a party. We clicked fast. Within 2 months, we were spending half our nights together. Within 4, she knew my friend group and my coffee order. The only sticking point was Wendy. Tanya never said anything directly, but she'd make little comments. Ask why Wendy and I still called each other babe, or why we had inside jokes from a decade ago. If I mentioned I had lunch with Wendy, Tanya's smile would tighten. Her voice would flatten. You two are really close. Yeah, I'd say. Always have been. She never pushed further. So I didn't either. Then came the concert announcement. Taylor. 2 nights only. Stadium tour. Pre-sale codes already gone. Wendy didn't even try this time. No way I'm paying rent and seeing God in the same month, she joked. I didn't say anything. Just quietly sold an old gaming console, picked up a few extra freelance projects, and watched resale sites like a hawk. 3 weeks later, I had it, a real ticket, 5th row, overpriced as hell and worth every penny. I wanted to surprise her. Make her believe in something joyful again. I planned it for our usual Thursday hangout at the Elm, our favorite bar. Tanya was coming too. So were a couple of others. It felt like the right moment. When I handed Wendy the envelope, she laughed, confused. Then she opened it and froze. Are you serious? She whispered. I nodded. You're going. She screamed. Actually screamed. Hugged me so hard I spilled my drink. Everyone laughed, cheered. Everyone except Tanya. She was quiet the rest of the night. Barely touched her drink. Left early, saying she had a headache. I didn't think much of it until the text started the next day. So you spent almost $1,500 on Wendy? You never spent that kind of money on me. Be honest. Are you in love with her? I tried to explain that it wasn't romantic, that Wendy had supported me through the worst years of my life, that this was just a gift for someone who'd earned it in ways no one else ever had. But Tanya didn't want logic. She wanted a confession I couldn't give. You crossed a line, she snapped on the phone. No guy does that for just a friend. So you think I'm lying? I think you're in denial. She showed up at my apartment later that night. Red-eyed, angry. Accused me of using her. Said I clearly never loved her the way I loved Wendy. I told her again, gently, firmly, that she was wrong. She threw a drink at the wall and left. We didn't talk for days. Then a week. I reached out once, but she blocked me. Wendy offered to return the ticket. I told her not to. Feels like it caused too much damage, she said, quiet. I nodded. Doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing. The night of the concert, I watched Wendy from the 5th row, dancing, crying, singing every word like it was stitched into her skin. She kept touching her heart and mouthing, "Thank you," between songs. I've never been happier to give something away. And maybe that's what Tanya never understood. That love doesn't have to be romantic to be real. That history doesn't mean threat. That sometimes the person who knows you best isn't the person you date. And that's okay. I still miss Tanya sometimes. She was fire and light and chaos in the best way. But she didn't trust me. And in the end, if someone sees your loyalty as betrayal, they were never really in it with you. Wendy framed the ticket stub. It hangs in her kitchen, next to a faded Polaroid of us at 17, covered in concert wristbands and high school sweat. Whenever I visit, I see it, and I smile. She calls it the proof. Proof that good things still exist. Proof that love doesn't always need labels. Proof that sometimes $1,475 is a small price to pay for reminding someone they matter.